Hello everybody, welcome back or welcome to my channel. In today's video we are going to go through my 2026 anticipated releases. Now by anticipated it's purely in the title, mainly just because it sounds good, but it's not like I've had my eye on these books ever since they were announced. It's more I've found in 2025 I've really discovered what books I like, what I like in a book, what I don't like in a book, the type of writing I like, the topics. And so when 2025 was coming to an end, I went to different social media platforms and I went to like different book apps like Fable and Goodreads and found what books were to be released in 2026 and read through the synopsis of different books and narrowed it down to like 10 or 11 I think different books that I've tried to keep in chronological order of when they're coming out. That being said, some of them may be out by the time this video comes out, but know that I'm filming this ahead of time, like right at the beginning of 2025, and to me these books are not out. But there is another video where I talked about the 26 books I want to read in 2026. In that video, not one of them is a new release, so that all of the new releases are in this video, and the other 26 are books that are either part of series that I'm in the middle of or just series I want to start, standalones I want to read based on things I enjoy in books. Without further ado, let's get into the list of the books I'm anticipating to read. I do have let me show you, my laptop here with the list of them and then the link to the synopsis so I can read that for you guys. Book 1 of anticipated releases is Graceless Heart by Isabel Iwanez. This is set in the 15th century where a sculptress, Ravenna Maffei, enters a competition hosted by a secretive immortal family who offer an invaluable boon to the victor. Desperate to win so she can save her brother, Ravenna reveals a rare magical talent, a dangerous act in a city where magic is forbidden. Her revelation makes her a target and she is kidnapped by the Luni family and taken to Florence, a city of breathtaking beauty and cutthroat ambition. There, Ravenna is forced into an impossible task where failure means certain death at the hands of Saturnino de Luni, the family's enigmatic and merciless heir. But under his control, Reserve hides a vulnerability that draws her closer than ever intended. Meanwhile, Ravenna's forbidden magic does not go unnoticed. The Pope, waging war against Florence, the Medici, and magic itself, has his own interests in her abilities, seeing her as a potential weapon in his ruthless campaign. As alliances shift and war brews on the horizon, Ravenna must navigate the treacherous line between survival and betrayal, between love and duty. With time running out and every move watched, the choices she will make determine the fate of not only her life but of the balance of magic and power that could unravel Florence itself. This is classed as a historical fantasy fiction, so there's not romance or anything in there, but I did find that books with similar storylines I did really enjoy last year, as well as just historical fantasy in general. So I was very excited when I saw this, and This is set to be a standalone, which I really enjoy. I feel like there's not many standalones, or at least that I hear about, especially for fantasy. I feel like it's all a series, and I love reading like series of books, but I just think sometimes a standalone is the way to go, because I want to read a certain genre, but I don't want to get into a full-on series. I just want to read a specific book. Both that book as well as this one, which is A Vow and Vengeance by Jacqueline Rodriguez, they're both set to release on the 13th of January. Both also happen to be fantasies. This is a romantasy dark academia, and the synopsis is deadly tarot, wicked schemes, dangerous alliances, can you survive the forge? Which, that sentence alone dragged me into wanting to know what this book is about. And it follows Rune Riker, who has nothing left to lose. Everything's been stolen by the Immortals, her family, her home, her freedom, but she's done playing by their rules. Each year, humans are forced to journey into immortal realms, but 20-year-old Rune orchestrates her own selection, determined to find her family and destroy anyone who stands in her way. Rune is used to doing whatever it takes to survive, and now she must endure the Forge, a cutthroat college for the immortal druids' exclusive tarot magic. When Rune's magic reveals itself to be the rarest and most powerful, she must live with its only other wielder, Prince Draven. As arrogant as he is ruthlessly ambitious, he's the last person she can trust. Rune's abilities also draw the eyes of the most dangerous druids in the realm. Some want to use her, more want her dead. Draven offers to train her for a price. As Rune becomes ensnared in Draven's dangerous games, she learns there are secrets at the heart of the kingdom that some will kill to protect. And Rune and Draven's growing attraction may be the spark to ignite a brewing war. The tropes that are listed here say enemies to lover, fake dating / fake fated mates, coming of rage, and there's only one bed. I'll be honest, I don't think I've read any books where the trope is there's only one bed. I could be wrong or mistaken. I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm very excited to get into it. Changing up the genres a little bit, we're now going to move on to a mystery thriller book, and it's My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney, which is set to release on the 20th of January. And this synopsis says Eden Fox, an artist on the brink of her big break, sets off for a run before her first exhibition. When she returns to the home she recently moved into, Spyglass, an enchanting old house in Hope Falls, nothing is as it should be. Her key doesn't fit, a woman eerily similar to her answers the door, and her husband insists that the stranger is his wife. One house, one husband, two women, someone is lying. 6 months earlier, a reclusive Londoner called Birdie, reeling from a life-changing diagnosis, inherits Spyglass. This unexpected gift from a long-lost grandmother brings her to the pretty seaside village of Hope Falls. But then Birdie stumbles upon a shadowy London clinic that claims to be able to predict a person's date of death, including her own. Secrets start to unravel as the line between truth and lies blurs. Birdie feels compelled to right some old wrongs. My Husband's Wife is a tangled web of deception, obsession, and mystery that will keep you guessing until the last page. Prepare yourself for the ultimate mind-bending marriage thriller and step into Spyglass, if you dare, to experience a story where nothing is as it seems. I will be completely honest and say I don't think I've read mystery that much in 2025. I did read it in 2024 and I know I enjoy them. I was just in a very long book slump last year that went on for months and then stopped and then started and then stopped and then started and then stopped. And so I just want to have a mixture of genres so I can really mood read, and I do love a mystery thriller. I do think there's a certain way I enjoy it to be done for me to fully get immersed into the story. And I don't know obviously what this is going to be like, but I'm excited to see if it's done where it all matches up properly, because I do feel like sometimes mystery thrillers can seem like they drag on a little bit, and that's where I lose interest in them and ratings go down. I'm moving on to an author that is familiar to me. I do think a lot of the authors on this list are ones of whom I've never read books before. This one I have, and I'm also partway through another book of theirs, which is going to be in a different video. And this author is Freida McFadden, and the book is Dear Debbie, which is set to release on the 27th of January. And the synopsis says, "Sometimes enough is enough. Debbie Mullen is losing it. For years, she has compiled all of her best advice into her column, Dear Debbie, where the wives of New England come for sympathy and neighbourly advice. Through her work, Debbie has heard from countless women who are ignored, belittled, or even abused by their husbands, and Debbie does her best to guide them in the right decision, or at least she did. These days, Debbie's life seems to be spiralling out of control. She just lost her job, something strange is happening with her teenage daughters, and her husband is keeping secrets according to the tracking app she installed on his phone. Now, Debbie's done being the bigger person. She's done being responsible, reasonable, and practical. It's time to take her own advice, and now it's time for payback against all the people in her life who most deserve it." Again, another thriller, mystery, psychological thriller, suspense. I know I enjoy Freida McFadden's writing. I think her mystery thrillers are always very good, or at least the few that I've read. I've not read obviously every single book, but I do know that I enjoy her writing. The book of hers that I'm partway through is The Housemaid, which I do want to finish because obviously the movie is coming out or is out already, depending on when this gets uploaded. But I got partway through The Housemaid and it was nothing against her writing whatsoever. I really was enjoying it. It's just I was in that much of a slump, and I also started it when I was traveling, that it just wasn't what I wanted to read, let alone I didn't want to read at all, to be completely honest, because I was just in that much of a reading slump that I just was not tempted to read anything. But my plan is to finish it in, obviously, as I said, a different video, which is like a reading vlog of getting through books that I'm in the middle of, because I did start a bunch of different books around that time and none of them grasped me. All of them were well written, but none of them grasped me in the way of, this is what I think is going to get me out of a reading slump. But I am getting back into reading now in the new year and really trying to push myself to get out of that slump. But moving on from that, the next book is Wicked Onyx, which is by Debbie Cassidy, set to release on the 10th of February. And the synopsis says, "In a ruthless magical academy where she's cursed and powerless, The last Onyx must unravel dark family secrets and navigate dangerous alliances to reclaim her legacy and make those who betray her pay. You don't graduate Nightbridge Academy, you survive it. I loved that phrase. Though you don't survive Nightbridge Academy, you survive it. That had me hooked, and it did kind of, as well as the title, take me back to Fourth Wing, but an Onyx Storm. But we're going to leave that, and we're going to go back to this. Born into a sorcerer bloodline, cursed and cut off from my power, I was accustomed to being an outcast. For generations, my bloodline carried the weight of a crime committed by our ancestor. But my mother's death changed everything. She left a clue that could prove our ancient text hidden deep beneath Nightbridge Academy. The Academy is a fortress of power, housing the most dangerous incanters and sorcerers, conscripted to keep horrors and echoes at bay. As the last surviving Onyx, I'm owed admission. My plan is simple. Find the book, expose the Imperium as the liars they are. But I didn't plan for the whispers that haunt my dreams, or the complication of feelings I shouldn't be capable of, stirred by two men bound to the very institution I've come to destroy. One sees too much, yet says too little. The other is steady, protective, always in my corner. That makes me think of Praying, Pushing It Down and Praying by Lizzie McAlpine. He is stable. Oh, anyway. I can't have either. Yet, when I'm in their presence, my curse begins to crack. If they discover my true purpose, I'm dead. But some truths are worth dying for. The Imperium cursed my bloodline, stripped of us our magic, branded us as traitors, and now they will pay. Now, this is classed under dark fantasy romantasy, and it also sounds like it may be a why choose, which I'm not typically the biggest person for a why choose romance. I don't really like it that much, but I'm determined to find a book that changes my mind, and I'm hoping this may be it, because it's fantasy, which is one of my top genres, and romantasy, I like the sound of the underlying storyline, so I'm hoping it will get me out of the why choose iffy, not fully enjoyed type of thing, as well as a couple other books that are on the list I did in my other video. I know that they kind of have a why choose. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what number book we're up to, but the next one is Keeper of the Lost... No. I always put the where it's not relevant and forget it when it actually is there. But Keeper of Lost Children by Sadeka Johnson. I always feel bad when I'm reading names because I will read something as I see it, and there's so many times I've mispronounced authors or characters in a book because I just read stuff as I see it. This is set to release the 10th of February, which I think is the same as the last book. But Keeper of the Lost Children, synopsis, is that it's a historical fiction and it's also set in World War II. And it reads, lost in the streets and smouldering rubble of occupied Germany, Ethel Gathers, the proud wife of an American soldier, spots a gaggle of mixed-race children following a nun. Desperate to convince her own family, she feels compelled to follow them to learn their story. Ozzie Phillips volunteers for the army in 1948, eager to break barriers for black soldiers. Despite his best efforts, he finds the racism he encountered at home in Philadelphia has followed him overseas. He finds solace in the arms of Jelka, a German woman struggling with the lack of resources, and even in her even joy in her destroyed country. In 1965, Sophia Clark discovers she's been given an opportunity to integrate the prestigious boarding school in Maryland and leave behind her spiteful parents and the grueling demands. In a chance meeting with a fellow classmate, she discovers a secret that upends her world. Tagging between the lives of these three individuals, Keeper of Lost Children explores how one woman's vision will change the course of countless lives and demonstrates that love in its myriad of forms, familial, parental and forbidden, even self-love can be transcendent. I have recently discovered that I love books that touch on very real issues. So I thought, instead of doing it where it's a fantasy that kind of touches on some issues, I wanted to try just fiction that touches on issues that are still happening in the modern world or happened at one point. I just like having those little things in there, the kind of hidden subliminal message type stuff. Book, I don't know what, is The Astral Library by Kate Quinn. This again is kind of fantasy but also historical fiction. I am going to be so honest, the reason I got as intrigued to this is because of a different book I read, which was The Midnight Library, and I can't remember who it's by. Matt Haig, something like that. And it was one of my top books I read. It got 5 stars immediately. It was kind of this library of choices you could have made and how different your life would have been. And so while the concept is not the exact same, it did remind me of that, so I was very intrigued to read The Astral Library, and its expected publication date is the 17th of February, and the synopsis says, Alexandria Alex Watson, like Alex in quotation marks, as that's what she's kind of known as, has learned one lesson from her barren childhood in the foster care system. Unlike people, books will never let you down. Very true. Working 3 dead-end jobs to make ends meet and knowing college is a pipe dream, Alex takes nightly refuge in the high-vaulted reading room at the Boston Public Library, escaping into her favourite fantasy novels and dreaming of far-off lands. That is so relatable. Until the day she stumbles through a hidden door and meets the librarian, the ageless acerbic guardian of a hidden library where the desperate and the lost escape to new lives inside their favourite books. I wish I could, but like my favourite book is pretty much Onyx Storm or the Empyrean series as a whole, and I don't think escaping there would do me any good. Like, I think I would die very quickly. However, if it's a different series like the Windy City series, yeah, I could probably be down to go in there. Anyway, the librarian takes a dazzled Alex under her wing, but before she can escape into the pages of her new life, a shadowy enemy emerges to threaten everyone in the Astral Library has ever helped protect. Aided by a dashing costume shop owner, Aided by a dashing costume shop owner, Alex and the librarian flee through the Regency drawing rooms of Jane Austen back into the back alleys of Sherlock Holmes and to the champagne-soaked parties of The Great Gatsby. As danger draws inexorably closer, but who does their enemy really wish to destroy? Alex the librarian or the library itself? Okay, This next book, I will preface and say that I love this author. It's so funny to me that I just mentioned the Windy City series because it is Liz Tomfordy who is the author of the Windy City series, and if you don't know what that is, it is essentially standalone, interconnected sports romances that follow this friend group. And the final book in the series, which if I'm not mistaken is book 5, was Rio's book, Rewind It Back, the red book. And in that we very much have hints that the next book is going to be about Montgomery, who's another player from the baseball team. And that is what this book is. It's expected to be published on the 3rd of March, and I don't know if it's going to be a new series, if it's just a standalone about Montgomery. I'm not 100% sure, but it does say that as the first female team owner in a Major League Baseball, Reese Remington, that is so crazy to me, like Reese Remington, no, that's wrong, that's Reddington. I was thinking about The Blacklist. That's Reddington, not Remington. And Reese just makes me think of Reese Witherspoon. Ignore me. It wasn't Reddington, Remington. Has spent her entire life preparing for this role. With a sharp mind and years of experience working behind the scenes, she's more than qualified, but the public only sees a woman in a man's world, not the person who's earned their place on the field. Under constant scrutiny and pressure to prove herself, Reese can't afford distractions, especially one that comes in the form of the team's tempting field manager who questions every decision. Emmett Montgomery is a former all-star turned coach who treats his players like family and the field like home. After years of running the team his way, the last thing he wants is a new boss, let alone one who seems ice cold and laser focused on business. But forced to spend long hours and too many away games side by side, he begins to see the fire beneath Reese's control, the heart behind her ambition, and the unwavering determination to prove herself. When heated banter turns to sizzling chemistry, professional boundaries blur and the spark between them becomes impossible to resist. But Reese is constantly reminded of how many people are waiting for her to fail, and the safest move is to keep Emmett at arm's length, for the sake of the team, the season and her career. But keeping their distance is one game neither of them can seem to win. Like I said, it's romance, contemporary romance, like sports romance. I have a very good inclination to believe that I will very, very, very much enjoy this book because, like I said, I love Liz Tomfordy's writing. I think the way that she writes both female characters and also male characters is just so much fun to read. I don't actually know if she has other works other than the Windy City series. I'm sure that she does. It's just that's what I know her from, and that was a very high ranked series for me. Pretty sure nearly every single book was 5 stars. There may have been a couple that was like 4 to 4.5 along the way, but they were all very highly ranked books. I'm not sure whether to do a full-on reread before this one comes out. I'll debate it. 3rd of March is kind of soon to read like 5 books, one after the other in the same series, but I could do it. I could. We have 3 left. The next one is another thriller, but this is a gothic thriller that's also horror. Expected to be released on the 17th of March, and it's You Did Nothing Wrong by C.G. Drews. Single mother Elodie's life has become a fairy tale. She's met Bren, equal parts golden retriever devoted and sinfully handsome. He's whisked her and her autistic son, Jude, to the crumbling family house he's renovating. She has a new husband, a new house, and a new baby on the way. Everything is perfect. Then Jude claims he can hear voices in the walls. He says their renovations are hurting the house. Even Elodie can't ignore something strange is going on. The question is it with the house or is it with her son? Then the one secret Elodie has been hiding is revealed, and no one is safe anymore. A pulse-pounding, clever take on a haunted house novel, You Did Nothing Wrong examines the complexities of motherhood and the twisted bonds of family as it races to its shocking ending. The reason I love this is I don't think I've read a book where someone has autism, so it'll be interesting to see how that's written about, only from the point of view as I studied it for my course. I had to study that in children and like the characteristics and kind of the early ways of spotting when a child may have those traits and characteristics. So I'm excited to see how that's written, because I do think sometimes a lot of people can almost get it wrong. But other than that, I think it's been a while since I've read anything horror-esque. It doesn't necessarily sound too much like horror. I guess I'll find it out when I read it. It is classed under that, but I think it's just more like a mystery thriller type book than horror. I could be wrong. If the horror is just straight gore, like some movies nowadays, I'm probably not gonna like it that much. But if it's just like jumpy and stuff like that, then I'll probably like it a bit more. The next book, which is the second to last book in this list, is Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. This is set to release on the 5th of May, and based on the cover alone, it does very much give me summer romance vibes, which it is a romance book. It's a contemporary romance book, which there's nothing wrong for, and I do think summer is kind of the best time and opportunity to read those books, especially if they're summer themed. It's just so fitting. I think summer romance books are some of the best to read. Like, I've read a lot of Christmas romances and they've just not hit that much, but a summer romance, if it's done properly, will hit. And the synopsis says, best friends have 1 week in paradise to fix their friendship or fall apart in this heart-stopping, utterly romantic new novel. It's by the author of One Golden Summer and Every Summer After, and it does seem like a standalone. So, I believe, I could be wrong, I will double check, but I believe it's a standalone. It's just those two books sound very similar and like it could be, but I'm pretty sure they're all individual standalones. And this follows Frankie and George, who have been best friends since they were 8 years old. Both passionate, impulsive and headstrong, they've always clashed and come back together, until now. It's the eve of Frankie's wedding weekend and she doesn't know where they stand, or even if George will show up as her best man. Then, at the start of the festivities, in walks George for one glorious evening surrounded by her loved ones. Frankie's life is finally perfect. But it all comes crashing down when her fiancé dumps her the next morning, leaving only a note as an explanation. Crushed and confused, Frankie returns to her family's home to wallow. But George has a different idea and a plan for healing Frankie's broken heart. He wants her to go on her honeymoon with him for 1 week to the lush rainforest and misty beaches of Tofino. I feel like that's in Hawaii. I'm not sure. I wasn't that good at geography. Frankie agrees. seeing the trip for what it really is, one last chance to repair their friendship, even if it means unearthing secrets and long-buried feelings neither knows how to handle, even if it means falling apart for good. The synopsis is giving like friends to lovers, but also there seems to be some sadness in there, and I'm all for a romance that goes through a roller coaster of emotions. I love it. And if it comes out around, obviously, which is planned, around summer, then it will just hit, because I love a summer romance in summer. It just is everything. And our final book in this list is The Lion and the Death of the Stark by Carissa Broadbent. Now, if you have been here with us for a while, you'd know that Crowns of Nyxia is one of my favourite fantasy series. When I first got back into reading, it was what got me into fantasy fully. It's a vampire fantasy series, and this would be book 5, and they are all connected, and I would say, as someone who's read them in order, you do need to read them in order because the story follows through. But I will also say that book 1 and 2 are their own like duology, and then books 3 and 4 are their own, and this one is book 5, which is going to be the first book in the Bloodborne duet. Books 3 and 4, and I'm currently partway through reading book 4, follows Mish and Asar, and then books 1 and 2 follow Rain and I can't remember her name, and it's really annoying me. But the female main character, the name will be somewhere on the screen. Personally, my favourites to this day that I've read are the first 2 books, books 1 and 2. I think their dynamic was my favourite out of the ones I've read, but books 3 and 4 is still good and pretty well rated by me. Well, book 3. Book 4, I've not finished yet, so I can't give you my rating on that, but when I finish it, I will give you my rating. But like I said, this is book 1 in the Bloodborne duet, and it's set to come out the 4th of August, so it's cusping that like summer to fall kind of time frame of the year. And this says, some blood tastes like vengeance, some blood tastes like grief, some blood tastes like nothing at all. Under an eternal night, the world has been ravaged by 10-year wars between human and vampire. Kyrene scrapes by as a bounty hunter, bearing a blessed sword from the goddess of justice. But in the wake of a devastating loss, Kyrene commits a crime. I don't know why I said that like that. Commits a crime that makes her a target for mortals and gods alike. And she is still desperate for vengeance. Her only chance at survival and revenge is making a deal with her enemy, the silver-tongued vampire prince Septimus, who... Septimus makes me think of Transformers, like Optimus Prime. It sounds like it should be a Transformer car. Anyway, who offers her one final to slay the gods themselves. Together, Kyrene and Septimus must hunt the ultimate marks, all while navigating a web of prophecies and curses. Septimus is calculating and mysterious, masking secrets bloodthirsty enough to consume them both. Yet, most dangerous of all, Kyrene finds an unexpected kinship in him. But their growing attraction is deadly in a world where the only currency is blood, and Kyrene will stop at nothing to fulfill her ultimate to kill the goddess of vampires, even if it means sacrificing love for revenge. I can tell you that typically characters will be introduced in previous books. So obviously it's vampire and human. The realms have been at war for a very long time. I don't want to give you too many spoilers. I do recommend this series. I think it is a very, very good series. Like I said, books 1 and 2 are my personal favourites that I've read. I just love them so much, and I actually don't know how many books this series is going to be. It's the Crowns of Nyxia series, which I don't know if I said that or not. I can't remember. But I know there's also a couple of like novellas in between that's also of each like couple. I just personally have not read the novellas yet. I'll get round to them. It doesn't even say how many books it's supposedly expected to be, but this is book 5, which is going to be the first in the Bloodborne duet. So I'm excited to see where that story continues. And that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you love reading, lifestyle vlogs, like yapping about books, anything to do with books and life in general, then make sure to join this little collective family that we're forming on this channel by subscribing. And I hope to see you all in my next video. If you have any other suggestions of new releases, leave them in the comments. I would love to see what other people, what you guys in general are planning to read in 2026. And yeah, bye.